to our first episode. Thank you for tuning in. Before we get into it, I just wanted to take a moment to recognise the traditional owners of the land that we produce this podcast on here in Gin, Brisbane, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. In today's episode, we introduce ourselves and we talk about why we're doing the podcast and what we hope you'll get out of it. And of course, we go on a couple of tangents about creativity. Hope you enjoy. Welcome everyone. Thank you for listening.
We've decided to include you in our weekly catch-ups. Every time we talk to each other, we feel so inspired and motivated, and we're really hoping to evoke that in you too.
Exactly. And even after 16 years of friendship and from different countries, every single time we talk, I am always reminded that I'm not alone in my journey.
And that as we walk the twists and turns of the creative path, the tangents always become relevant. Hello?
Hi!
Ooh, first episode.
Well, this is very exciting.
It took us so long to get here.
Yeah.
The concept was that it was just the two of us calling each other and we would just record it, and that was the podcast. And it's taken literally months.
I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad we're here. This is great.
People are going to be here because they're following my career. People are going to be here because they're following your career. And then hopefully we have a bunch of people listening who don't know either of us. So shall we introduce ourselves?
Yes, let's do it. Let's introduce ourselves.
All right. I'll let you take the lead if you like.
I was trying to let you. That's perfect. I'll go for it. Okay, so for those of you who do know me, thank you for listening. For those of you who don't, I'm Gabrielle Ryer. I am a multidisciplinary artist, so I've done a few different things, but I guess I like to define myself as a storyteller. I've started as an actor. I've always painted, and then I moved into directing and producing. Then I realised I don't actually love admin. I'm good at it. So I tried to get out of producing. But now I'm kind of finding my way back into it. You know, you go through ebbs and flows. So I do lots of different things. I've worked in film. I've worked as a casting director. But the things I love to do are share people's stories, talk to people. I love people. I'm interested by them, you know. I want to know what makes people tick. I like talking to them. So I think I'm going to move into documentary making next. So I've been learning cameras and I like learning new things, you know. I like doing it all. That's
what I love about you. That's what I think makes you really interesting, because I remember throughout our friendship, I'd come and hang out with you and I'd come to your shows and whatever project you were working on at the time. And they're always projects that involve lots of people. You've always been a people person. But you'd go out for a cigarette and you would come back with a new friend. It would be someone who asked you for a light as they walked past. And next thing, they were coming inside, they were going to watch the show. You knew all about what their secret skill was, even if their job was, you know, being an accountant. You were like, no, but they're actually this amazing, I don't know, electronic music producer, and I'm going to put them in the next show. And like that, you connect with people and you see the creative in them. And I think there's a real mentor about you. That's something really exciting and cool, because you're not just about putting your own art out there. You always are encouraging other people to be their best creative selves as well.
That's really nice. This is something I love about our friendship, is you always reflect back to me things, because you know me so well and for so long, that I don't like, that I know, but I don't necessarily see that way. And I find it really informative and helpful for my growth, because you'll say things like that. And like just today I was saying to Erin, you know, I really love, and I can't help but encourage people to be creative. It's in my bones. It's what makes me feel the most joy, the most proud, the most like alive. Like I just can't help it.
Yeah, like I think that, and maybe that's what makes it so easy to connect with your art in whatever form that comes in, whether it's on the stage, whether it's on the canvas. We can connect with you because you are very genuine, and connecting with other people is in your soul. It's not just something that you're like, oh, I have to put my art out there, so I'm going to have to learn to connect with people. It's just inherent in you.
Well, thank you. No, it's interesting because now is the first time ever. So I've done lots of things, but now's the first time that I've just been very alone. So, you know, I think I got socially burnt out from the theatre and casting, honestly. And I was thinking, well, painting is just me. I don't have to have anyone else around. I don't need to, you know, direct. I don't need to collaborate. It's just me and the canvas. And that seemed really attractive and what has been really good. But now I'm kind of I'm missing collaborating and I'm missing connecting. So I can feel there's a shift now for the new phase of whatever it's going to be creatively. And I feel like I'm ready to collaborate again. But for the first time ever, I'm also willing to sort of share my story, and I've never done that. So that's sort of new and exciting. I'm like, oh, I wonder how this is going to pan out. All right, you should introduce you as well.
So for those of you who have joined us from my YouTube channel or maybe my Instagram, thank you for supporting this project. And for those of you who don't know me, I am B Townsend. I am a vintage content creator. Everything mid-20th century is a big passion of mine. I grew up with old films and idolizing, the likes of Audrey Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, Ava Gardner. So that has become my passion. I do hair tutorials and makeup tutorials, all that kind of stuff over on my social media platforms. And I'm also a jazz vocalist and jazz musician. That's what I studied. And so, yeah, you can catch me singing sometimes. I've taken a hiatus to focus on the social media content, but I will be coming out with more stuff. Vintage. I buy and sell vintage if anyone's looking for true vintage. And I think a general creative, and this is something I thought might be interesting for us to talk about, is because, you're an artist. I think you're like a legitimate artist in the sense that you're a painter, but I wanted to use the word creative when we talk about our podcast, because I think there's this connotation with the word artist that people think of as a visual artist. And I think you can be an artist and be so many things. And that's why I love my job, is because I get to be a creative director. I get to be a photographer. I get to be a makeup and hair artist. I can paint sets. I can sew clothing. There's no end to the creative process that I can follow. And that is something that is very exciting and liberating. And so when people ask me what I do, I'll often say YouTuber, but really I'm a creative, and YouTube is the space that I get to create on. And I think don't be afraid, is what I want to say to people, is don't be afraid to own the fact that you are a creative and not put yourself in a box. Because I think as soon as you put yourself into a box, yeah, you feel like you have to meet some sort of expectation. Yeah.
Pressure. Yes. Since I've been like, okay, I'm going to be focusing on selling my paintings, I feel like everyone I meet, I even thought it before, I have to say, I create large-scale, custom-made artworks, abstracts, and portraits. Like, it's like a script, but it's like, no, I just like making stuff. And when people say to me, what do you do? If I answer exactly how I want to answer, this is what I would say. Whatever I want. I do whatever I want, whatever I want. And it could be anything. Like at the moment, I'm obsessed with breaking fears, which we'll have to come back to. But it's like that's a whole full-time job for me right now, thinking about that. What do you do? Think about fear at the moment.
You've just made me think of, I wish I could remember who it was that was talking, but it came up on TikTok, and it was an artist of some sort talking about, like, obviously someone very famous who was being interviewed, talking about how real creatives, they procrastinate, and that actually what is deemed by society as procrastination is actually the process of them waiting for creative genius to strike. It is about knowing that even in the most mundane things, you might be making a coffee, you might be procrastinating by cleaning your apartment, any moment an idea can come. And someone who's not creative will try and sit down and make something from 9 to 5. And it doesn't, well, this is what he was saying, it doesn't make any real difference, because the creative moment still comes when it comes. The thing that people are going to be interested in can't be forced out of you on a 9 to 5 timeline. And I found that so relieving to hear from someone who was obviously like very respected for their craft.
Yeah. 100%. I think it's all about, like, we can try and put times and rules on it all we want, and everyone's different and needs to do different things. You know, there's discipline, there's self-control, there's being available to the work, there's making the time and space, all that. But at the end of the day, as long as you are actually prioritizing it and your intention is focused on it, like when I work my side job to fill the bank, at the moment in between painting jobs, I was so angry before I went to that shift. I was so annoyed at myself, felt like I was going backwards. I was judging myself, so mad, all that. And then I got there and the people are interesting. It's a whole different input because they're different people that do different things. The people also were lovely. So it was just nice social interaction, which was always good. But what I found is while I was working, I got about 6 new ideas. So it doesn't, because I've always thought you have to be sitting in your studio waiting, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, I think you just have to be mentally available. And sometimes I have to tell myself, like sometimes I have to shut that off because I get too many ideas and I become overwhelmed. I'm like, I can't action all of these. Like the filter to my muse is like broken. There's no filter. It just sends them all. I'm like, just send me the best one for a little bit, please.
Tell her to take a coffee break. Please take a vacation.
Literally, I'm like, I'm currently nursing like for 3 hours this week. Just let me do that. But, you know, I find if I watch reality TV, I can switch my mind off and I don't get any ideas. But
that's so
I say
true. I experience the same thing. I wonder what that is. Maybe because it's not inspiring. It's like the chewing gum of television.
It's junk food. It is. Like, you know, everyone knows it and we all love Maccas on occasion, you know. I think it's on occasion. That's the key. But even lately I've been getting things from, I think reality TV is getting a bit better. They're getting like better creatives on board because it's starting to have elements that are inspiring. And I'm like, oh, look, you can get inspiration from anywhere at any time.
Love that. I'm inspired to go and get a job as a yachty because it looks so good, but then I forget that actually you're stuck on a boat for 6 weeks nonstop with people that you didn't choose to be around and entitled guests. So maybe it's not as glamorous as it looks on the show, but still.
I know. We are literally looking at doing a deckhand course, but I don't. I know. I watched Sunset. What's it called? Selling Sunset, and I was like, I could be a real estate agent.
Yes,
and this is.
I love dressing fancy. I'm in.
Actually, that's something I remember when I first met you about us was, and I always tell people this when I talk about you. We would go to meet at a cafe and I would always spot you before I knew it was you because I'd always think, oh, she looks great. And then I always felt like whenever we were out and we'd meet together, we both looked amazing. Like I was like, we look fantastic. Like, and we both were always so like, just not to get the attention, but just because we love to dress up. And that was something I always enjoyed. And I can't wait to do it again in real life because it's been a long time. But that's a beautiful part of you that I've always really admired and respected. Like you've always just physically, you know, embraced expressing yourself, whether people judge it, whatever, you just do it and you enjoy it. You've never done it because you're trying. The intention's always been like, you can tell you just like doing it. And I think that's really cool. It's a really, really cool thing. And it's cool that you now make a living off it. How great is that? Yeah.
I feel like it was such an organic process as well. Like the reason I started YouTube in the first place was actually you. So my first video was a hair tutorial that I put up for Gaby because she asked me how to do, I think you were going to a wedding or something. You asked me how to do use hot rollers. And so I made a video on how to use hot rollers and we weren't living near each other. It was that for some reason I couldn't show you in person. So I was like, I'll just put it on YouTube. And I never used to log into YouTube. I
was in that weird motel.
That's right. Yes, you were like an hour away by car. So that was the easiest way I could think to show you. I used to watch cat videos occasionally on YouTube, so I wasn't logged in. I left the video up there for a few months. I came back and it had over 10,000 views and I was like, who the hell is watching videos of a girl speak for 20 minutes about how to put a hot roller on her head? Like, I don't, and that's how it took off. So thank you. You're literally.
How incredible is that? Is that, I love it. Is that is that video still up there?
Yeah, it's got like 500,000 views now.
Oh my gosh, I love it. We have to link that in. That is so
Put it
cool.
Below. Like it goes to show you can start with anything. I actually
remember that. Absolutely. That's so cool. Yeah, when I think back over the years as well, there's been like when we went camping, I have this very, very strong memory of you and I, and I'm sure there was other people around too, talking and and you said, what do you want to do this year? Or like it was New Year's. And so one of us said, you know, what's the plan? What's the goal? Whatever. And so we're talking about what we wanted to achieve for the next year. And I remember vividly saying, I'm going to have an art exhibition and I'm going to put some artworks into a hotel. And then the next camping trip, we were sitting there again and you know what I'm like, I forget everything. I'm just always like, you said to me, last year you said you were going to do this, this and this, and you did all of it. And I was like, oh my God, I did too. And you made me realize, I was like, and you were like, you always do what you put your mind to, and that has never left me. Mm-hmm. So you've been like fundamental in me actually doing the things I want to do as well, which is really nice.
Oh, that's so cool. This is what I mean, guys. When you find yourself a friend who gets you on a really fundamental level, it's so special because you can't, like, being a creative is hard. It's hard to maintain the confidence and the drive and the motivation because you have to be your own, you know, pep talker all the time. You have to be your own coach. You're your own boss. Like it's hard. And so having a friend who inspires you and motivates you and encourages you without making you feel pressure, because so many friends will try and they mean well. This is not really a criticism of them, but people will say, oh, you should do this, or you should do this, or I love when you do that, do more of that. But it feels like pressure. It feels like you have to do it for them because they're trying to support you, but you don't want to let them down and then they don't support you. Like it's a very fine line.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's like the people who inspire you and motivate you without meaning to. That's what I've found. Like the people when I'm even just around certain people or chat to them and it's natural, it's friendship. And, you know, people talk about networking and it just sounds so stressful, but it's just talking to people. Yeah. So when you talk to people and then you feel motivated, keep talking to them. Or when you talk to people and you feel stressed, stop talking to them. You just got to sort of simplify it down. And I've always found with you, especially in hindsight, like you say things to me that are reflections back and it really helps me. And I think that's because now I can see it comes from a genuine place of caring about me as a person, but also you're a creative, so you get it.
Yeah.
And there's no competition. So you're not saying it because you want to see, like, I mean, I know I wanted to see that video, but there's no benefit for you. There's no, you know what I mean? You're not trying to get something.
That's such a
You're
good
not
way
trying to gain. Yeah. But you're right. If you find a friend that encourages you creatively, keep chatting to them. That's literally how we've gotten through the last little bit when we both felt a little isolated. So
nurture
it's a
that.
good thing.
Because we, like you said, we can talk for like 3 or 4 hours. And I mean, even now we're going to have to cut this podcast. We're going to be talking for way too long, but it doesn't matter if we lose a whole day talking to each other. And I use the word lose very loosely because I'm not losing a day, because I know after engaging with you, I'm going to feel very inspired and have all this drive to go and create more. Whereas if I hadn't spoken to you, I would have had to motivate myself and I would have procrastinated 100%.
Yes. Same. I feel exactly the same. And I hope others can gain from that, from us as well. I think they will, because it's been quite powerful. Like, especially like even us two, we both in the past have been very strict with ourselves and put ourselves under a lot of pressure. And that's something we've both had to learn through, which we'll no doubt talk about. But it's like, even back then, we both would lose track of time and not feel guilty. And I think that's a good sign. Like it's like soul food. It's nourishing for the soul.
It is, yeah. And like, I don't know if other people find this. I'd be interested to hear your response to this. But I find myself when I see someone, even if it's someone that I'm not, like obviously with you, I care very deeply about your wins. But when I see other people sharing their talents with the world and their hard work with the world and it coming to fruition, I genuinely start crying because I'm really happy and excited for them that will make me cry more than like a sad thing in a movie. Like even if it's fiction, in a movie when I see like a character finally like reach their dream, I'm like, oh, it always makes me so sad. No, not sad, but you know, like tear up. Yeah.
I feel it too. The Olympics.
Yes.
Oh, I'm just like, they've worked so hard for this.
Yes.
Like, I'm so happy for them. Like nothing's ever given to you. Like some things are, and I am very privileged, but when you're working hard for something and then you achieve it, it's like, it's so, like, we know it's such hard work to get there, and it's easy to want to give up and change plans and distract yourself and not all that. So it's so nice. Okay, this is fun because we're starting the podcast. Yeah. Let's say something that we're currently both working on really hard.
Okay.
That when we complete it, like when I went to the printer and I cried and I drew that portrait that day, like it was like a big milestone. A milestone, we'll call it.
Yeah,
a milestone we're working towards, that we're going to feel that like joy of achieving. And then as the podcast goes on, we'll hear it.
Oh, yes. What's your current?
Okay, mine is definitely building my own studio that I own.
Yeah.
It's a big one. That's the one for me. That's hard, like a lot of hard work is going in. Mm-hmm. So like, working extra shifts, saving, which I never do, love to spend. It's been already 2 years. It's not a quick thing, but I've got the land. So next is to build the structure, all that. Like it's a huge milestone. And once I have that, no one can take it from me. Yeah. Like I'm not renting it. It's not going to send me into debt. So that's I think that would be mine at the moment, is building my own studio.
Oh, I love that. I think for us, it's very similar, and we talk about this a lot, is that somehow, even though we're on very different journeys, we end up sort of in a spiritual and personal growth sense, hitting similar milestones at similar times. So for me, my carte de séjour, which is like the permanent residency, is only 1 year at a time, but it allows you to have access to being able to work in the country, access to the healthcare system. I'd be able to apply for art grants and things like that. So I'm desperately trying to make that happen. And I've been with my French partner for over 8 years now, and it still hasn't happened. So it's been a long time coming, but I've been working my butt off. My dossier is in. I've got another appointment coming up soon. So what I want is to be able to make my videos, get back to modeling, performing music, working with brands in Europe, just making my business run, selling my vintage, do all of those things that I have the freedom to do them. Because at the moment I'm trying to do them all in the online space with a whole bunch of hurdles. I'm not allowed to do this and I'm not allowed to do that. So that's been a wonderful challenge, but I'm really looking forward to having the freedom of just being able to run my business like a normal person.
I am currently building a business where I'm selling large-scale abstract artworks, but I'm also working on my personal art, which has its own website, and I'm developing a product line of Pride merchandise where I'm going to give 10% to LGBTI organisations that are fighting the laws, to change the laws around coercion and anti-gay, like programming courses for religious kids. Okay. So I'm actually still looking for the right organisation. I think I've got one, but if anyone has suggestions, please tell me, because I'm building the business side at the moment, but I'm going to be launching pillows with my like personal art on it, the art I made for my psychologist and things like that. So that's really exciting me at the moment, making big pride paintings with glitter in it, doing massive pride murals at festivals, like basically just celebrating being gay.
Love it.
Is what I'm currently focusing on. Yeah.
You're going to love it, guys. Wait till you see like Gaby's bags, purses, cushions. Like the stuff is gorgeous and so much fun, and I'm sure you're going to love it. So make sure you go and check it out. We'll put on the screen and down below, we'll put Gaby's Instagram that you can go and see all her amazing work.
Well, thank you. No, it's interesting because now is the first time ever. So I've done lots of things, but now is the first time that I've just been very alone. So, I think I got socially burnt out from the theatre and casting, honestly. And I was thinking, well, painting is just me. I don't have to have anyone else around. I don't need to, direct. I don't need to collaborate. It's just me and the canvas. And that seemed really attractive and what has been really good. But now I'm missing collaborating and I'm missing connecting. So I can feel there's a shift now for the new phase of whatever it's going to be creatively. And I feel like I'm ready to collaborate again. But for the first time ever, I'm also willing to sort of share my story. and I've never done that. So that's sort of new and exciting. I'm like, oh, wonder how this is going to pan out.
Yes, well, and I want to say thank you for, now that you're ready to collaborate again, thank you for collaborating with me. I feel very lucky that after you've come out of your cocooning phase that I'm one of the first people you collaborate with. Like, thanks.
Thank you, because you're the first person I've wanted to. So that's really nice. Like, but truly, I've always wanted to work with you and wondered what we do. Like, when I had my theatre, you worked there, so we did in a way. I felt like the jazz jam, we did create that, but you really created it. I sort of just facilitated it, but I felt emotionally connected to that, and I feel proud that happened. Thomas's play, I felt like, that was great. Thomas's play, I felt like, was you two collaborating, which, and again, I facilitated with the venue, but it was more me watching you act and feeling proud. But I didn't feel like I was really in it. So I've always wanted to create with you. And I'm so excited that we've actually come up with this format, because every time we talk, it's a minimum of 3 hours. So this just seems so perfect. and I've been wanting to get back into radio. Plus, every time we talk, there's been a few key moments over the years. I've thought to myself, other women need to hear this. And you're one of the only friends I have where I've thought that repetitively. So I'm really excited, because I think we have a lot to offer people in terms of like actual technical things. Like if they want to know how to do something, we'll tell them. Or but more importantly, I think the energy we share, like inspiring each other, cheering each other on, not judging each other, helping each other where we can, and being honest and available or not available without any guilt. All of those beautiful things in a friendship. Like, I can't think of anything in our friendship that is negative. So I'm excited for other people to see. It's cool. So like when like the creative side, but our friendship too, I feel like it's a beautiful fusion. I'm really excited to work with you. I feel so honored on every level, like professionally, personally, creatively, everything. You're organized, you're clever, you've got cool ideas. Like, I just feel so lucky. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm excited.
Thank you. Beautiful. I feel exactly the same way. I couldn't have said it better. And I think it's a really positive thing to put out there, that you can be friends with someone else who's creative, especially coming from a country like Australia, where we do have like the tall poppy syndrome thing. That's something we can maybe get to in another episode. But it doesn't have to be competitive. Like, honestly, I'm a better artist or creative because I'm friends with you. It's not about, oh, you're taking up space in the creative world, and so that takes away from the space that I could be taking up. It's not like that at all. It's like there is an endless amount of space for everyone to share their creative selves. And the more that we help and encourage each other, the better we're all going to be. And I think that's a very positive message. And I think it's something that a lot of people need to hear, because even now, even over here in Europe, I find myself in situations talking to people where they're guarded, or they don't want to share their connections or their ideas, or, and I just don't think it's productive for the other person, like the person they're not sharing with. And it's not productive for themselves, because they are missing out as well. By being guarded, they're not receiving either. So yeah. One of my favorite things as your friend and watching you be a creative is that you make shit happen. And I know, like, you've spoken to me a lot about, oh, you're worried, like you jump from this to that, or you've got a million ideas. And to me, you come up with amazing ideas, and sometimes they might seem bigger than anything. They might seem, sky high and not possible, and you make that shit happen. And I think that's what's really exciting about you as a creative. You don't let people say to you, no, you can't do this. You told a story the other day about making a truck in art class, like that people were like, you could just project a truck on a screen, it's fine. And you're like, no, I'm making a truck. I can do that. Like, don't tell me I can't make a truck. And that is such an exciting process to watch. Like, you are a buzz with creative ideas. They're popping out of you all over the place. And you're so prolific. Like, you will make so many different things happen in a short space of time. And maybe to you, those things they might just be like little things along the way that might not mean a lot to you. But to me, I watch that, and that is success to me as a creative. It is letting yourself be creative and be prolific and produce stuff, and also not worry too much about whether it's meeting some sort of standard in your head, because I might see a piece and think it's your best work, and another one of your friends or a critic might see another piece of your work and think that's your best work. We never know what people are going to be drawn to. And sometimes it's what we think is absolute crap. We're like, oh God, I hate that. And that'll be the thing that takes off, So I think it's really brave to just be constantly putting something out there, moving on to the next thing. I really see that as success. And that, in my mind, is what makes you a professional artist. And there's a whole other topic. The topic of money as an artist and what does being professional and being a success is. But really, to me, there is no question in my mind ever. You've been a professional artist for a really long time. I think as soon as you went to uni and you started making plays and painting and being an actress, you just started being professional almost straight away because you were like, I am a creative person. I am an artist. And that's really what it is. It's being it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. It's funny, this must be the universe trying to remind me of this right now, because my niece, again, said the same thing to me. She said, Gaby, you always said to me, figure out what you want to do and then just figure out how to do it. Just find a way to do it. And I do think that. I don't remember vividly saying that, but I do think like that. And it's interesting because as I've gotten older, I think that that's become more diluted, and I've had to remember that there's always a way. You know what I mean? And in the past, I never doubted. I just figured it out. But I guess I don't really doubt. Let's be honest. It's just the real thing is it's just I've got less energy. I'm like, okay, so I can do this, and that will probably work. And if that doesn't work, I'll try this, and this. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm tired. But that's the only new part. So I really that's really nice that you recognize that. Thank you for saying that. For me, I see you as professional and inspiring, and always have, because you're consistent and you hold yourself to account.
I'm laughing because I don't feel like that's true, but it's so interesting that you see it differently. I'll let you finish, but it's just...
That's how I see you. Yeah. No, but it's true. So many people want to do a YouTube channel, right? But to actually continue to create content, or even a theatre, I'm just going to start a theatre company. There is so much involved, and we both know firsthand, to actually get a product out there, whether it's podcast or painting and anything. So to see you over 16 years consistently, whether it was music with your band, I would go and see you do gigs and you would have done the costumes, you would have written the music, you would have recorded the backing track, you wrote the lyrics, you directed the dance, whatever it was, you see things through. So you don't shortcut, you don't, make it that'll do. I feel like you're very, very, very good at seeing things through. And I find that, to me, that is professionalism to me, being able to push through and get it done.
Oh, wow. See, this is why you guys need to get yourself an amazing creative friend, because that for me is a huge anxiety and something I really lack confidence in, is there's a voice in my head that says you never finish anything. You need to... And I look back and it's so funny because in my life I've always been a perfectionist, and I've always been someone who probably held on sometimes too long to things. And I'm not necessarily just talking about creativity here. I also mean in relation to whether it be a relationship, a friendship, things in your life that might be toxic. I wanted to give them a good go, but it's funny how the bad voice in my head will often say to me oh, this is not good enough, or you haven't put enough time into this, or you started this thing over here and you decided to go down this route too, the kind of the lost opportunities. And the thing is you can't do everything, and you have to make a choice.
This is so interesting because so what I see as a positive, if you let yourself go into that negative headspace, you can see as a negative. And same for what you said to me, you see it as a positive. If I let myself, when I'm in a negative headspace, I think I've got too many ideas, no one's going to take me seriously because I'm always shifting and changing. I've got to brand myself. All that negative self-talk is there. So that's really interesting to me. If we can remember that everything we're allowed to be here.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to do it your way. You're allowed to, if the negative side that you need to learn through is holding on for too long, you'll learn that. And if for me, you'll learn how to navigate that. And if for me, it's, you know, doing too many things, I'll learn how to navigate that. And that's our own personal growth. But I think focusing on the positive, like you're saying, if you find someone who feeds you back the positive, that's good.
Yeah. Because it's inherent in creatives to have the little discouraging voice in your head. I don't think there's a creative out there that doesn't have, you know, imposter syndrome and fear that they're not going to be good enough. Like, we don't need more of that shit from anyone. We don't need the critics, guys. Like, if we want to ask for professional advice from a mentor or someone who knows their shit, wonderful. But we don't need more people going like, oh, you know, maybe you could just work on this. Or I don't like that. That's not for me. Like, I don't want to know.
Totally. It's so frustrating. Nat sent me a thing the other day that was like, anger is a totally reasonable response to disrespect. Ooh. And when people do that to me, I feel angry. And then I thought about it and I was like, it actually is disrespectful, because it's like, I, first of all, didn't ask. Second of all, you know nothing about this. So like, it's like me going up to a chef and being like, okay, I really think what you need to do is focus on your plating because people like it. It's like, shut up.
Yes.
You don't know anything
Absolutely.
about it. I hate to be intense and negative, but honestly, if you don't know something, if you don't know anything about it, you have no lived experience of it, don't offer unsolicited advice, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like the chef example is so great because, you know, if you go into a restaurant and you don't like the style of food, you don't tell the chef to change the style of food. You go to a different restaurant, you know? Like, the chef doesn't care that you don't like his food. He's got a restaurant full of people. Like,
if you don't like Thai, go to the Indian restaurant. That's so true. If another chef goes into that restaurant, right, and then they start saying, oh, they're doing this bad, blah, 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 that's just them frustrated at themselves for not doing what they want to do. So, like, oh, this is actually a really good way to think about it, because I've had lots of, like, people who are creators or art artists or whatever, designers that give me their opinion on stuff, and they'll say, for example, you've got to stop using glitter. Stuff like that. And I'm like, first of all, I don't got it.
No.
Second of all, why? And then I said that. I'm like, why do you think that? And they're like, oh, because, you know, critics won't take it seriously, whatever. And even when I entered a recent competition, it actually said no artworks with glitter will be accepted into the gallery because they don't want glitter in the gallery. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, the one thing I love doing, even the art galleries won't put it up.
God.
And I'm like, that's great. So I think that person was genuinely trying to help me, but I like using glitter. And it's not, I don't care. It looks cool to me. I love it. So I'm going to keep doing it.
And I mean,
sorry.
I think there's a point, and I think that's part of being a professional. There's a point where you have to stop taking the critique, because otherwise you're a student. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, we all need to keep learning and growing and developing our skills in our lives. I'm not saying not to do that, but at some point you have to be brave enough as a creative and an artist to just go, but this thing that I don't want to let go of, that's going to become part of my signature. That's going to be part of how I express myself as an artist. And the reason other people aren't doing that is because it's my thing. Otherwise, there's just more, there's multiple artists all doing the same shit in the world. We don't need more of the same thing. We need ingenuity and individual expression.
Originality. And the thing is, this has taken me years to realize, is you can't create that. Like, you can't manufacture it, word. So, like, over the years, I've been like, oh, you know, Ben Quilty paintings, for example. I love his work. And one of my teachers said to me, your portraiture reminds me of Ben Quilty. And so I researched him. I love the way he paints, and you can tell it's his paintings every time. And so over the few years, I was like trying to think of a thing that could be my thing, right? And I think a lot of people do this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I think a lot of people get stuck in this idea because it does make sense. Like saying to the chef, you know, people like plating. Sure, it makes sense, but you can't just pick a thing and then go, I'm going to do that thing. Like, I didn't go, I'm going to do glitter because it's different and that could be my thing. What happened is I got so over everything. I just started doing whatever the hell I wanted and having fun. And when I do it, it's fun. And so I'm like, I'm just going to keep having fun. And so you can't, I think the thing comes out of you, and it's like anyone who knows that has experienced that. And so it's like you can see it in others, I think too. So for those of you, if you are thinking like this is what I'd say, right? You're never going to be able to create your look or your thing. It's already in you. So just let yourself do what you actually like. And I felt embarrassed, nervous, and stressed about people seeing it because it felt bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it felt lazy. It felt like not real. They weren't going to like it. I hadn't put enough effort into it because it was fun. There was so many things. But now I'm like, I don't even care. Like I just like doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of like release.
Absolutely. And it's so, when you were saying this, it made me think that will come, being able to just let that happen comes with experiment and play. And this is where the name of the podcast comes in, because we haven't told you guys why it's called Tangents Irrelevant, but you have to creatively play. And this comes from this sort of the terminology I'm using comes from a book called The Artist's Way that we have both read, that it's about letting yourself be creative, not to a certain standard, not to try and meet anyone's expectations, even your own. It is just to let it out of yourself. And over time, your particular style and what people love about your work, and it might even be something that you don't recognize or that you don't like about your work, but the thing that other people will be drawn to will organically come out. But you've got to follow the tangents. The tangents are always relevant, guys. That is a big part of it. Exploration and play. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we've done our first episode.
I think we have too.
Before we finish our first episode of Tangents Irrelevant, I would just like to let everybody know that both of our microphones are not plugged into anything.
Yes. This is all fake.
Yay! We did it! Ta-da!
Da-da-da-da-da. Are we going to press stop? We'll do it together. Yeah. Ending the recording.
Right. Hey, we're done.
Now.
Well, that's our first episode. Thank you so much for listening. And for those of you who made it to the end, thank you for being here. Don't worry though, because we do love to chat. There is hours and hours of conversation that I had to cut out when I was editing this. So good news for you guys though is B has decided to do a video version. So there's a whole lot of fun to be had on our YouTube channel at Tangents Are Relevant. See you next week. Thanks for listening.
If anything from today's episode has affected you, please reach out to your local support services. For links to resources mentioned and to connect with us on social media, check out the description.